Hello, seventh grade, and you're looking at Mr. Rogers, and unfortunately, not Mrs. Froman this time. We weren't able to collaborate on this one, so you just get me for all the seventh graders. So, in the last video, guys, we looked at animal-like protists, and in this video, we're going to look at fungus-like protists and also plant-like protists. So, in that junk drawer kingdom, lots of different types of things, and end up in this kingdom. And we'll look at some more of the weird guys in this one here now. So, starting with fungus-like protists. So, they're kind of like funguses, they're kind of not. Like funguses, they're heterotrophs, but they have cell walls, and they're made of different materials than fungi. But also, the big thing that makes them like fungus or fungi is they have spores. They use spores to reproduce, which are tiny cells that grow into a new cell or a new organism. So that one spore can grow into a new fungus-like protist. They're also able to move at some point in their life. They're actually able to kind of not just be carried by wind, but actually move at some point, be mobile. And there's some weird guys in here. I don't know what that is. Little looks like a mushroom, not a mushroom. Kind of slime molds growing out of trees. Those would be your fungus-like protists. So some popular types of fungus-like protists would be water molds and downy mildews. Again, like the name says, they live in water or moist places. They grow as tiny fuzzy threads. And they oftentimes will attack aquatic life. They attack fish. But they also, a little history fact, led to the Irish potato famine back in the 1800s. So here you can see it attacking this fish. And basically, after it's a parasitic relationship, it eventually kills whatever it's going to be infecting. So slime molds, kind of a gross, weird-looking name, live in moist soil and decaying plants. Oftentimes, they have bright colors. They move by forming pseudopods, like the amoeba. They kind of just ooze around. And they just kind of feed on bacteria, other dead, decaying matter down there. So they look like slime. They're slime molds. And you can see them here, all kind of bright colors. This one looks like snot. I'm not sure what that is. But they are very unique to this protist kingdom. And again, they do produce spores. That's what makes them fungus-like. So now, our last group we're going to talk about are the plant-like protists. So plant-like protists, like plants, they're autotrophs. They can make their own food. They live in soil, live on barks of trees, they live in water. They can be unicellular, they can be multicellular. We'll look at some under the microscopes that are one cell. Things like seaweed, that's also a plant-like protist, which is, can be hundreds of meters long. And when they are multicellular, sometimes they can become cells can become specialized, which is a unique sign. That means they're getting more and more complex. So some of those kelp, that seaweed, which is a protist, can start having things like not necessarily leaves, but they can also have not quite roots. So they're kind of being more specialized tissue, but not quite roots or not quite leaves. They can be many colors. Some of these look out to be reds, browns, greens, obviously. So here's one called the Volvox. We should see that guy next week also. So different types. You have different types of plant-like protists. We have euglenoids, and we'll look at one of these guys next week also. So they're green, unicellular, and algae. They live in fresh water. They can be, now here's where they get weird. This is that weird one that can be both heterotrophs or autotrophs. So if there's no sunlight, they can be heterotrophs. It means they'll go around, hunt, and eat food. But if there is light available, they will carry out photosynthesis. And that new organelle they have is an eye spot. Now, we think of eyes, we think of I can see what's going on. Well, their eye just kind of senses light. So I wouldn't say it's seeing, but it's light sensitive, and it knows to go to light if that organelle picks up the light. Another type are called dinoflagellates. So again, that flagellate, that means they probably have flagella to help them move around. Again, these are unicellular algae, so they're one cell big. What's unique about them, they start being covered with these stiff plates, with that really stiff plate on the outside. They come in a variety of colors. They have that two flagella. They're in grooves, and they kind of like spin around in the water, and that's how they move. And they tend to twirl around in the water. Many glow. So I'll talk about the luminance in water. It actually makes the water look like it's glowing. It's kind of a unique, weird category. Another one, a fairly large group of these live in oceans here, are diatoms. And diatoms are unique because they have glass-like cell walls. They float or attach to objects, and they actually move by oozing chemicals out, and they actually slide. The glass-like cell wall will slide on that ooze, or that slime. Oftentimes they're eaten by heterotrophs. And kind of a cool fact, when they die, their bodies form what's called diatomaceous earth, which is used in scouring cleaners and toothpaste. So maybe this morning when you brush your teeth, and I hope you brush your teeth, that you brush your teeth with some dead diatom exoskeletons or the cell walls of those diatoms. Something to think about. And now our more typical things we think of algae. Green algae is a very typical plant-like protist. They contain green pigments. Most are unicellular, but some are multicellular. Again, they live in water by and large, but some do live in soil. Here's that Volvox. Look at those guys. And here's some other pretty popular types of plant-like protists, or the green algae, I should say. So we have green algae. We also have red algae. Again, most are multicellular. And what's cool about them, because they're red pigment, they can grow very deep in the ocean, much deeper than most plants could. You may have had these when you eat ice cream. Also used in hair conditioners. They kind of help give that smooth texture to food. So brown algae, think of typical seaweed, that would be brown algae. It has many plant-like characteristics or structures, like holdfast. They kind of look like roots, but they're not. And they also have like tiny little bladders, like little sacs, help them float, move up and down in the water. These brown algae, they like cool, rocky water, and these kelp can be 100 meters tall. And we'll see some videos in class. You can see you see the picture here, a scuba diver, and you see a 100-meter tall kelp that it's used for. So often used to eat itself. You can eat seaweed by itself. It's also used in food as a thickener in foods. So 7th grade, I thank you guys for watching here, and we'll see you along the way.